might have to get used to being in the hot seat. A recent report in the New York Post indicates AT&T might, quote, neutralize Zucker after it acquires Time Warner. AT&T will purchase Time Warner for an estimated $85 billion if the Justice Department approves an antitrust case in the next 60 days. According to the report, AT&T executives believe CNN might be too much of a liability with its recent bad press. So for more on this, we're being joined now by legal and media analyst Lionel of Lionel Media. Lionel, my friend, first, let's break this up here. AT&T, the merger with Time Warner, tell us what that means to the average consumer.
Well, anybody who is the consumer of news must understand, M-Chan, the entire beginning and end of this issue is that merger. We're talking about journalism, we're laughing about Van Jones, the nothing burger, but as far as in the hallowed halls of AT&T and Time Warner, the only thing they're thinking about is that $85 billion merger. And CNN, if that poses a roadblock, if Jeff Zucker poses an impediment, they're gone. Expurgated, removed, excised, frozen, moved upstairs laterally. The last thing in the world AT&T cares about is some piddly, pain-in-the-you-know-what news organization. Their goal is entertainment. Now, what's also interesting from the consumer point of view, there is this fascinating legal argument that's being brought up involving a vertical merger. Now, for the first time, you have unique bedfellows. You have the Democratic wing led by Al Franken, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders, who wrote this letter very concerned about this merger. You also have Susan Rice, who was, not Susan Rice.
Susan Collins.
Susan Collins, who was also worried about it, the Republican. And you had Donald Trump, the candidate at first, who was himself worried about this. Now, vertical mergers, for people who, at home, vertical mergers will be like a car company that buys a tire company, that buys a window company. It actually helps people. Horizontal mergers, those are the problems. Now, what this is about, two things precipitated this concern. Number one, this past week, the Anthony Scaramucci story, with the risk, with the threat of a $100 million or so lawsuit. Why? Because of the impediment to this deal. Now, why do we keep saying that? Why is this a problem? Well, ask yourself the question. When the Justice Department reviews this for a possible violation of antitrust laws, who is the person who runs that Justice Department? What's the name of the guy? He's the president. Oh, yeah, Donald Trump. Now, this has a parallel. Remember, we saw this with Fox. Fox got rid of Ailes and Bill O'Reilly because of the Sky deal. Things are never as they appear. Now, you and I will talk about journalism. We'll talk about journalism and where journalism is going. But I say this again, and I want everybody to understand this. This is about the merger. They could not care less, even though Zucker did a great job. I'm sorry, please.
And I wanted to stop you on that thought, speaking of journalism and where we're going with all of this, because the New York Times has had a slew of recent retractions. Retractions of the alleged consensus of 17 intel agencies of this Russian hacking, when in reality we only have 3 or 4 of them. They're subdivisions of those said 3 or 4 agencies. What of that? What does this mean to the viewer when people are being misled by 17?
This was the talking point. This was this axiomatic truth. This is what everybody was saying. How does the New York Times wait this long? And by the way, they didn't even go back and clarify all of the words. But how is it, in view of this new revelation involving CNN, how is it that something as important, I mean, it is axiomatic. Manila, people were saying 17, 17, 17, 17, and it became the talking point.
Yeah.
So what it goes to show you is that the bottom line is simply this. Ladies and gentlemen, CNN, mainstream media, sock puppet media are dead. And watch the rise, like the phoenix, of alternative, Project Veritas, foreign media, citizen journalists, new platforms, because the American and world consumer doesn't care about the masthead, doesn't care about the old gray lady. It cares about the truth. And any way that the American or the world consumer of news gets the truth, that's all that matters. It's a new day, M. Chan, and a new era, and we're the tip of the spear.
My friend, thank you so much for always sharing your great insights with us. Lionel of Lionel Media in New York City.
Thank you.